like to call to order this February 24th, 2025 Winchester Public School Board regular business meeting. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Here. Mr. Island? Here. Ms. Harris? Here. Dr. Pierce-Gonzalez? Here. Mr. Rothwell? Here. Ms. Burrow? Here. Dr. Tedrow? Here.
Okay, this brings us to the belief statement and pledge of allegiance, which our student reps will lead us in.
Good evening. At Winchester Public Schools, we believe that every student has the right to an excellent education in a safe, experiential, and imaginative learning environment. We believe that every student deserves equitable opportunities to learn, grow, lead, and serve. We believe that an intentional focus on future-ready skills and dispositions, integrated with essential academic knowledge, develops an empowered 21st century graduate. We believe that mental, emotional, and physical health are essential conditions for optimal learning. We believe that collective efficacy and shared accountability are vital ingredients to a productive, empowered workforce. We believe that Winchester Public Schools must be a learner-centered, agile, and courageous in modeling the power of public education across our Commonwealth, country, and world. We believe that a vibrant public education system positively impacts the social, economic, and civil well-being of Winchester. We believe that embracing the diversity of our students, their family, and our community is a strength that unifies us. We believe that to achieve equity, we must clearly define and monitor to the extent to which all learners and groups are empowered through access, diversity, and inclusion.
At this time, I ask that you stand, remove your hat or hood, and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you guys. As for the chairman's comments portion of tonight's agenda, all I really have to acknowledge is how well our women's and men's basketball teams are doing, and they're playing this evening at Hanley. And so, you know, go Judges. We're there with them in spirit. That's all I really have. Mr. Superintendent?
I have no comments this evening. I'll save mine for the recognition portion.
All right, this brings us to board comments. We'll start to my left. Dr. Tedrow?
I just want to say that I saw on the Facebook page that you are limiting the time kids can have access to screens, and I want to applaud that. I'm currently reading Anxious Generation, and less screens, better off we are. Thank you.
Mr. Rothermel?
Sure. I had a prepared statement. As I take on this responsibility as a newly elected member of the Winchester School Board, I want to reaffirm my commitment to upholding the principles outlined in the Code of Conduct for School Board members, acting with integrity, prioritizing student success, and fostering transparent and respectful communication. I look forward to working collaboratively with my fellow school board members, school leaders, and families to ensure that our schools remain inclusive, well-rounded, and student-focused. The Code of Conduct guides us in making well-informed, ethical decisions that strengthen Winchester's education system and ensure success for all students. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Burrows?
I would like to second Dr. Tedrow. I think it's great that they're limiting screen time. 2 a.m. for a high schooler. I feel like it could be 12, but you know, they like to stay up late and study, so we'll give them a little pass. But very, very good.
Thanks. Ms. Harris? Okay. Mr. Island? Mr. Virginoff? All right. Thank you. Student representative comments.
I have a couple news from Virginia Avenue, John Kerr Elementary School, and Quarles Elementary School. So let me start with Virginia Avenue. So Principal Pluska wanted to say that they had a few exciting events. We had our annual Sweetheart Dance for our families. We had an author visit to close our One School, One Book program. We started after school tutoring in February on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We started our kids' Heart Challenge, used to be Jump Rope for Heart. Today, that will be running through the end of March. Coming soon, Read Across America Week, Global Night, and student-led conferences. For John Kerr, Principal Pryor wanted to say that last Friday they had a very successful House Hour, where they focus was a SOAR reboot, safety, outstanding effort, accountability, and effort. March 6th was their art and STEM night, 5:30 to 7 p.m. that day. Our enrichment programming starts on Tuesdays, Thursdays, afternoons in March with offerings such as Legos, chess, and engineering. And our after-school attendance recoupment has been going strong since mid-February on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and will run through April 10th. At Corals Elementary School, Principal Hovider wanted to say that in December, State Senator Timmy French toured the school, visited classrooms, and met with students and staff to learn more about Corals Elementary School and Winchester Public Schools. The amazing first ever Corals Elementary School basketball program that met twice a week after school, and then we're able to have 2 evening events for families to join and watch their children. The second grade Wax Museum was a success as second grade students brought history to life with their costumes and speeches representing influential figures in American history. With the great partnership with the Laurel Ridge Dental Program, who were able to serve 26 students for dental services and cleaning, students participated in the elementary school division-wide quiz bowl. Students participated in the Shenandoah University Buzzy Bees reading program and enjoyed a SU women's basketball game on the 12th of February this year. As a kindness certified school, we are participative in the Great Kindness Challenge the week of January 27th to January 31st, and the Virginia Department of Education Virginia Kindness Week from the 9th of February and the 15th of February. During the month of February, we focus on our school is a family, celebrating all students at Corals Elementary School, where we learned about life lessons with the book Just Because by Matthew Mathikos, change and collaboration with the book Detective Duck by Henry Winkler, abstract thinking with the book Opposites Attract by Mo Willems, confidence soars with the book Piper Clinton Sings by Philippa So, flows like water with the book In Praise of Mystery by Peter Sis, and Believe in Your Future with the book Believe in Your Future by Michaela Ewan. Conquer Fears with the book Goodnight Thoughts by Max Greenfield. Currently, we are practicing for our annual Chameleons Got Talent show, which will be on March 13th at John Hanley High School. That's all I have.
Moving on to Frederick Douglass, they last week partnered up with the Discovery Museum to bring an unforgettable STEAM night to our students and families. The turnout was fantastic, and the energy in the room was incredible as students and parents explored hands-on science activities together. This event not only fostered a love of learning, but also strengthened family and school connections, and it was truly an inspiring evening for our school community. Going on to Danny Morgan Intermediate School, they had a full month of achievement and celebration. They had a 5-star celebration where our students came together for a joyous event filled with singing, dancing, and rafting to bring our school spirit to life. The school also showed reader testing success. Our students showed tremendous dedication and performed exceptionally well on these tests. For our 5th grade ELA showcase, these scholars explored the power of words, creating and presenting heartfelt catalog poems to their peers and admin team. And for our 6th grade Makerspace innovation, we had our students participate in hands-on learning experiments with Makey experiments, sparking curiosity and creativity with our 6th graders. The school also had a PBS bowling event, a well-earned celebration rewarding positive behavior and strong attendance. The students had a blast. And looking ahead, with such incredible momentum, we are excited to build on these successful events and continue fostering a culture of learning, creativity, and achievement in the coming weeks. Moving to John Hanley, it was the first day today for our spring sports, and it was amazing to see all the kids trying out for all the sports that we offer. Along with sports, we have our boys and girls basketball teams going to the playoffs games today. Also at John Hanley, on Thursday after school, we'll be unveiling our senior cafeteria with the mural at the ribbon cutting ceremony. And I just want to say that it was amazing to see all the students and painters put in the work for the senior class 2025 gift as the mural happened, and how it will set forth a new tradition for every graduating class to leave their mark on our painting. By that, I mean each graduating class in the future will leave their own graduation year in a special paint or emoji of their choice as we pass on the tradition. And it looks amazing, and I can't wait to be sitting there for the rest of my senior year. And I also want to say from our student body that we thank you guys, the board, and also wish you guys a happy School Board Appreciation Month. And that is it from us.
All right, thanks, Kevin and Keith. We're busy in WPS. That was a lot of information. I appreciate that. Moving to the recognitions portion of the agenda. First up, we have the Frederick Douglass Showcase. Ms. Massel, yes.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here this evening. I do want to take a moment to introduce Mr. Fannin. He's the assistant principal at Frederick Douglass. We also had a couple teachers come out tonight just to support, so I want to thank and recognize them. We have Mrs. Estes, our MCL. We have Mrs. Estes, our first grade teacher, so they came out to join us tonight, so thank you. We appreciate them being here. We have a lot of great things going on at Frederick Douglass, so it's always hard when you have to come up here and just talk about one thing. But one thing that's really been a big topic at schools this year is just some of the new things that are going on with literacy and a lot of the changes that have come from the state. We have new standards. And one thing that has happened in Winchester this year is that we have added the bookworm series into how we teach literacy, which has really been a great way to focus on the new standards and bring it together in a streamlined way that allows teachers to make sure that all of their strategies are aligned and that we have some instructionally based delivery going on consistently throughout the schools in the district. So I wanted to highlight just a few things that the teachers have really said that they like now that we're about halfway through the first year of bookworms, and how they think it's about enhanced our reading instruction. So one thing that I hear consistently across the school is that there is rich classroom conversations going on with students about what's happening in the texts. One part of the system is that students read together throughout the class all day, every day. And so what that has done is it has given students who may not be able to read on grade level text access to that grade level text on a daily basis, where students are allowed to follow along with students, hear the content, hear the vocabulary, and it's given them a great opportunity to have exposure to literature that they haven't in the past. There's a huge focus on a written response in the program. So students, if you can look at students' writings that we've had ever since I've been here in 11 years compared to what we're seeing from the beginning of this year, excuse me, till now, it's amazing what the kids' handwriting is looking like and what they're able to produce. Stamina and grit has always been something that students have struggled with, and again, because the students are focusing on reading in so many different settings throughout the day, we've seen a huge increase in the amount of stamina that students are showing too. Not only are written responses getting so much better, but we're also seeing that students are using evidence to support what they're writing. A lot of times in an elementary school, you just see students who will say, I liked this because it was purple, or but they're actually going back and reading what they have read and using that as a part of writing their responses. They're receiving exposure and explicit vocabulary instruction. One thing that we talked about when we were choosing what program to move to this year was what is going to make planning more streamlined for teachers. It can be very difficult, especially if you're a new teacher and you're coming in with all these different standards and curriculum you have to meet, and not having something that's consistent and puts you on a clear path of these are the materials that I know are good to use. And this program has really streamlined it so that when teachers are using this program, they know that what they're teaching is what they're supposed to be teaching, and that aligns with standards, and it hits the level of rigor that we're looking for them to get to. And then the last thing that teachers reported really liking about the program was that it does provide them with some independent activities for students to do that very closely aligns with what they just taught in class. So when they send students off to do some independent work, where in the past it had been very difficult, to ensure that kids were doing something meaningful. This program has really helped boost that confidence in teachers and knowing that they're giving them something that's going to be productive during that time. So another thing that we've loved about this program is that the kids are loving it. They are books that they would have probably never even considered trying to approach in the past. They've really locked into it, and we think a lot of that is the books that are included with the Bookworms programs are just good literature books. So this little guy here, standing by himself, he's a student who hasn't been in the country that long. He's kind of struggled with reading. It hasn't been something that has really ever been a love for him. In 3rd grade this year, they read Because of Winn-Dixie. And by the time it was over, he had declared that Kate DiCamillo was his favorite author, and now he cannot get enough of her. And so the book he's holding in his other hand was the one he was reading now, which was the second one. And actually, the day that I went and got him and took his picture for this and talked to him, he was so excited because he was meeting with the one reading specialist at the time, and he knew when his session was over with her that day that she had another book for him by day, and you would have thought it was the best day of his life. He was so excited. The group on the other side is a group of 1st graders. The Frog and Toad books were a huge hit in 1st grade. And one other thing we do at Frederick Douglass is if a child has a birthday, we read their name on the announcements every morning, and then sometime that day they get to come down and choose a birthday book that they get to keep. And so when the one little boy and the second there in the blue shirt came back to Mrs. Estes, actually, he said, "Look, Mrs. Estes, I chose Danny the Dinosaur book for my birthday book because we just read that today in reading class." So that was exciting to see that they were really like latching on to what they were reading. Originally, these were videos. I really wanted you to hear directly from the kids, but the formatting didn't come through right. So the little boy in the George Mason shirt, again, was just talking about how he had read the one book in reading class and how now that he loved that series so much, that's what he goes to the library to get. So every time he goes to the library, he asked Mrs. Davis to help him kind of find the next book in that series. So what we're seeing is the literature in this program is just locking kids into loving reading and expanding that into them wanting to read more on their own. I have kids come up to me all the time just walking through showing me the books they got from the library because they had read it in class with their reading teacher. And the last little boy chose that book and was really excited about it because it very much links in content to what they're learning about in their Virginia Studies classes. And so in the video he explained about how he liked that book because it reminded him of things they were learning. It helped him understand what they were learning in Virginia Studies. So there's a lot of cross-content also in the books that are coming with the Bookworm series. And as great as the Bookworm series is, we also know that you can't just depend on a program to teach kids and for kids to love literature. So we have also been doing a lot of things that kind of, what we say, brings literature to life. So some of the things that we've had happen were, this was the Wild Robot. Now, this was something we did at the end of the school year last year. But we did One Book, One School for the Wild Robot, which was a huge hit across the school. We've done them before, but for some reason, this just really worked for us. It was a great book. And so what we had done was we had organized a robot parade once the book was over, and we went outside and we had the front road kind of blocked off. We looped around and we had floats, and the Hanley band came, and it was really just a great, huge school-wide celebration of the fact that we had completed this book together, and the kids just got so into it. So that was a way that was just really fun. Our new librarian, who is just amazing, she's phenomenal, came to me a couple months ago and said, "Hey, I wanted to do this project with the kids in the library, but I'd really like to expand it to the whole first floor. Would you be okay with that?" And I didn't really know what she was doing, but I was like, "Sure, yeah, go ahead." And I came in like 2 days later, and when you walked through the hall, she had the whole hallway decorated with all these different scenes in purple, and she had taken the book Harold the Purple Crayon and created all these different scenes as you walked through the entire top floor of our school. And so what she did as kids came through for library, she walked them through and read them the book while they were at each scene and had allowed each one of them to make a purple crayon. So you can see in the picture there that they're holding. So they kind of got to draw along with Harold while he went through this book. And then she had them do some of their own activities back in the class. And as you can imagine, that was a huge hit, not to mention how cool it was just walking through the upstairs of the building with that whole scene like throughout the entire floor. And another thing that we did was, if you recall, I talked about the little boy who had really loved the Because of Winn-Dixie books and had caught on to the reading with Kate DiCamillo. They had a Because of Winn-Dixie party when they finished that book for their school. So they had all the foods from the story, students dressed like the character, and they watched the movie to talk about like how different it was from the book. So those were a few things that we've done in the past just this year that have really continued to enhance reading and bring bookworms even more into the school and into kids' love of reading. And what we're working on, we're just getting started right now, is the Wild Robot was such a huge success last year. This year we're doing the Wild Robot Escapes. We are doing it a little different this year. One thing I will say about bookworms is it's a great structure, but it's very structured, and so it's a little bit harder to find the time to bring in a big project like this. So we are doing it a little bit differently this year, where teachers are going to read the stories and the chapters electronically. We're going to do some vocabulary together as a whole school, but we are just getting ready to start that next week. And because we are a dual language school, we'll do the whole book in English, and we'll also do the whole book in Spanish. So we're really excited about that. Everybody's kind of getting excited, starting to get some fun things up around the school to get kids excited and doing that again. So that was it for me. Any questions that you guys have?
Any questions for Principal Massel? No? Oh, yes, Kevin.
I don't have a question, but I would like to comment. So when I was in elementary school, I struggled with reading. I was in ESL, and I wish I had something like this. Because this doesn't just because when I went to school, they just gave you the book. They didn't really incentivize it. They didn't make it fun. They didn't make it very interactive, and this is very interactive.
It is.
And eventually, if they start up young reading and actually feeling like some sort of incentive to just read, they would learn more words eventually, obviously, and they would, once they're older, they can read more complex materials eventually. And will also help, develop, very good critical thinking skills eventually. So, this is great to see, and this, especially with, the boy that is an ESL student, I believe, with him, this really, incentivized him to, learn English and not just stay out, because when I was my fellow students in ESL programs, they just didn't feel motivated. And when you're young, this is the perfect age to learn a language. So if you motivate these kids to read, they will learn English faster, and they would, and that's very useful in a country where the major spoken language is English. And in academics as well. So I'm very impressed by this. I'm very happy that this district is doing this. And so I just wanted to say that because it's very amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing. And you're so right on so many points. You can come speak at Frederick Douglass anytime you want, because that was all we're trying to do. We want kids to find it fun, to see the value in it. And you're right, develop the language skills that all the kids need, and it's great for our ESOL. But thank you so much, because that's exactly what we're trying to do. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Kevin, for those comments. Anybody else? All right, Ms. Massel, Mr. Fannin, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
All right, this is School Board Appreciation Month. Now, Dr. Van Huken.
You're doing all the talking, right? Good evening. It's my pleasure to recognize our board. And before I do that, I want to introduce Anna. Anna is we have over 20 student interns in the Winchester Public Schools that serve in the tech department. Anna currently works with Maggie McCampbell-Lean, our public information officer, manages a lot of our social media. She works half a day with us every single day. And so she's a senior, and you're going to Shenandoah University, I believe, next year to major in nursing, I think. So say hi to Anna. She's a great asset. Tonight, we just want to recognize you as board members for all the time and effort that you put into serving this community. It's not an easy job, and it's not necessarily a job that you get a lot of accolades for. It's kind of under the surface at sometimes. But I personally get to have a front row seat to your service. And we want to make sure that you know that we appreciate your service here to Winchester. And in particular, I've said this many times, our board prides itself on being a civil, functioning board that abides by the code of conduct. So Ben, I appreciate you kind of doubling down on that here this evening. But I just can't say enough about how we hold our meetings and treat each other and make wise decisions for this community. So what we have for you tonight is a metal rose that was done by the welding students at the Innovation Center. And so that is a gift from our students to you. You can put that in your office or a mantle somewhere in your house. Be careful, it has some tough edges to it, but our students were working on that diligently over the last several weeks. In addition, and we'll give these to you after the program, we have some certificates for you as well. So just want to say thank you, and we appreciate all you do for our students and community.
Thank you, Dr. Van Hugelen, for that. And as chair, I would like to extend my deepest appreciation to the rest of you as well for, thank you, for the often thankless service that you provide to really the city of Winchester, but Winchester Public Schools in particular. And I'm happy to know that I wore the correct shirt tonight. Roses are like one of my favorite things. So I think. Oh, maybe not. All right, this brings us to public comment. I believe we have one person signed up, Chris John. Is that correct? Okay, as you approach the podium, I will read this portion here. Persons or groups appearing before the school board must state their name and address for the record. Individual speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes per meeting. We have set aside 30 minutes for the public participation portion of our meeting, and speakers will speak based on the order in which they signed up. Speakers are not permitted to campaign for public office or promote private business ventures, use profanity or vulgar language, make comments about a public official or an employee that are not related to their official duties, make comments that violate the privacy of any employee or student, engage in behavior that disrupts the meeting or intimidates others, or address the school board on issues that do not directly concern the services, policies, or responsibilities of the school board. And as a reminder, we kind of have a general rule that board members will not respond to public comment at the time it is presented. Okay, Mr. Christian? Christian, oh.
Christian, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to try to make this really brief because I want to go home. My name is Arthur Christian. I live at 523 Fairmont Avenue. And basically, I support no cell phones in the classroom. That's a big thing. Some jurisdictions allow, some not. Yeah, I'm not sure where you guys are, but I support not having them. We didn't have them. We tossed notes to each other when we were in school. The school buses, they speed in front of my house, and people ask how I know this. Well, because my property frontage is 50 feet, and I can measure, if you take 1 second to cross it in 50 feet, you are already doing 35 miles an hour, so you're already reckless driving. And there's pretty big markers there, so and I do have video cameras. One of the last two things is transgender folks. I feel for them. I'm not convinced that there's an issue when they play sports because there's no scientific evidence, no scientific studies that have been yet produced for this. As far as putting them in different locker rooms, that's easily accomplished. When I was growing up, we had female people who would play on male teams because of Title IX. So they just opened the girls' locker room for them, and everybody was happy. Finally, ICE is a very sore subject with me. They can enter any room, any building, anytime, scare the crap out of little kids. Be prepared. They're going after soft targets. So be very, very aware that it can happen. I grew up with air raid drills during the Cuban Missile Crisis. They actually sent us out in the hallways to, and so that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address the board that didn't get a chance to sign up? All right, seeing none, we will proceed to section 4, which is the consent agenda. This includes the approval of consent agenda items, the agenda, the minutes, the bills, the monthly finance report, facility usage, and the school board code of conduct.
Agenda items as presented.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Island.
Second.
A second by Mr. Birchenough. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have adopted the consent agenda. Looks like we have a report in section 5 on the budget. Ms. McDonald?
Good evening, everyone. We're going to skip down the slides here that you saw at our last meeting in regards to revenues, and we're going to address expenditures this evening and the expectations around those. Yep. So the slide presents our budget requirements and priorities that we've determined through meetings with leaders around the school division. We break them down between required and Tier 1 and our Tier 2 and our Tier 3. The Tier 2 and 3 are recognized as needs, but were not found to be requirements or Tier 1s at this time. They're for future reference if we have additional funds that become available to us. So we won't dabble into those, but those are, as you can read there, in regards to additional $100,000 towards our remediation budgets. We already have remediation budgeted in our FY26 budget of about $281,760 across all of the schools. It would have additional family liaison position at around $50,000, an instructional technology coach added in our IT department for $85,000, and then under the Tier 3, there would be an additional 1.5% given to our non-TTT scales that would result in $455,000. Like I said, these would be looked at if we had additional funding become available to us. Concentrating on our required and our Tier 1 that we've determined to be put forth as the needs for the FY26 budget. Starting out with our health insurance and an 8.5% expected increase there in VRS. That is based on our insurance rep giving us an expected 8.5% premium increase. And our VRS, there's some dollars there for our defined contribution plan, which has a rate acceleration built into it with VRS participants. We often don't know. We haven't built that in previous budgets, so this year we're trying to put some monies in towards that possibility. If someone increases their VRS defined contribution, then it has a rate acceleration built in that we would then have to contribute more for that individual. So, we received some good news today in this category. It appears that our health insurance premiums will be coming in significantly lower than we projected. We didn't have time before this evening's meeting to look into that and to reflect on the impact that will have. So at our next meeting, we'll be bringing that forward to you and what impact that will have on this line of $500,000 that we currently have built into the budget. We have an in-rep increase of $29,821. This represents the increase in the K through 12 billing that we receive from Frederick County Public Schools for our portion of the FY26 in-rep budget. And we're expecting a $29,821 increase in that amount. Our TTT mid-year increase, average of 3.34%, $860,640, which represents wages and benefits. Taking back, you passed a mid-year increase in FY25, and during that presentation, we gave you that increase would result in this $860,460 in FY26. I'm going to skip down to this TTT scale. That's our teacher scale. There are counselors and nurses also on that scale. This would provide also a step increase for them for their years of experience, representing 1.5%, and that is $559,000. This would bring the overall average increase for teachers to 5% when you couple these two together. Then moving, we have a non-TT, which is all other staff, average increase built in of 4.63%, resulting in a $1,067,477 increase to our budget. This is arrived at by examining our 35 pay scales from floor to ceiling that are under the other staff, non-TT scales. This was quite an undertaking. We looked at those 35 pay scales from floor to ceiling and looked at individual employees across every one of those scales to help us bring those scales in line linearly and into market, basically for a cost to compete kind of increase in these scales. So we increased the floor and lowered the ceiling in our scales because we found that our scales were low at the start, but they went way too high on our other end and were really over market when it came to the ceiling. And then you have built in our inflation costs. This year we built into the budget approximately an average of 3% for inflation costs in our non-personnel lines, and that represents $550,000. So we have a total increase that we're putting forth for FY26 in our expenditures of $3,566,938. This slide shows you the results of our non-TT of those 35 scales across the employee statuses. So those scales are represented by employees in these various statuses, and these represent the average percentage increase of us changing those scales from floor to ceiling, with an overall average increase of 4.63%. Or basically, if you round, about 5%. So it would also be representing about a 5% increase for all our other staff as well. The next few slides detail out for you some selected categories of these employee statuses to show you what happens with those scale changes. So this first one, we have our teacher assistants, teacher assistant 2s. As you can tell, they had a starting salary here in the orange, which is our current scale, of $16.29 an hour. The proposed scale would take them to a starting wage of $19 an hour for step 1, and that would be a 17% increase overall for step 1. Overall, across the entire scale, it represents a 5.63% increase for this particular scale, which is, we reference, it's our D4 scale. As you get closer to the end, to the ceiling, you'll see we have this hold harmless point. So this is the point where our current scale individuals are above the market. And so this hold harmless means that we would hold them harmless. We would not be reducing their wages. And they would get anywhere from a 1 to about a 2% increase as well. But anyone coming in with those years of service would be placed on the new scale, which would be at these lower amounts, not above them, not on the same scale with them, at the lower amount, and that would still be within market. But changing the scale and increasing the floor, as you can see, enables us to be more marketable and bring in individuals with lesser years of experience at a higher wage, and that will truly help us recruit and maintain our employees. This is another example of a scale. This is our bus driver scale. As you all are aware, we struggle to recruit and maintain our drivers, and this will allow us to be more marketable and places our scale above neighboring divisions. We reviewed several other neighboring divisions from Warren County, Clark County, Shenandoah, Frederick, in setting this scale. This scale shows that our current in the orange, a bus driver with 1 year of experience starts at $16.70 an hour. They would go to starting at $23 per hour, a 38% increase in step 1. Overall, our average increase in this scale would be 11.71%. Once again, the same thing applies with your home harmless point as in the previous graph. And lastly, we have a 12-month custodian scale. This scale shows that our starting on the orange was $14.16 an hour. It would move to a $17 an hour step 1 year of experience, a 20% increase for that step. But overall, across the entire scale, we would have an average increase of 5% for our 12-month custodians. So just taking you back to this other slide, that just shows that like across the scales, from the floor to the ceiling, the floors have much larger increases and the ceilings less, and that's how, we average out to our 4.63% overall. And most of these particular ones that we selected are in, of course, this 10-month non-exempt, which is showing that higher percentage.
So, quick question. If you're like I'm looking at the custodian thing right now. If you're a
Right.
4, you would get a raise this year.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes. Yes. They all will get raises.
Right.
Even the hold harmless individuals would
right.
result in, across the whole division for non-TTT, it would be about the minimum would be about 1%.
Okay.
But anyone above the hold harmless, it runs anywhere from 1 to 2, give or take.
About how many are approaching the 20-year mark where we get this crossover? Who may be anticipating, a higher increase than?
That's very hard. I could provide you with that data, but I would have to go back and tabulate it because, like I said, there's 35 scales here that we're talking about. So I would have to look at and count how many individuals we have that would be in that hold harmless area.
So in this chart where you have the 12-month, 10-month, so the 10-month non-exempt is, kind of substantially higher. Is there, I don't know what the difference is between these 4 categories, general categories. Why is that one particularly
well, for example, I was saying that in your 10-month, these custodians are 12-month. They're on the slide with the custodians, so they're falling in this 12-month non-exempt. Overall, with all our scales, that's 3.72, and the custodian slide was about a 5%. But your 10-month non-exempt, both these teacher TA2s and we have TA1s and these bus drivers, they're falling into that category. So those TA2s, that step 1 alone is going up 17%, and on your bus drivers, this step 1 is going up 38%, I believe it was. So those higher percentages that you're changing between this scale and these lower floor areas are what's driving this one to be at 6.63%. But there are other scales that are on that 10-month non-exempt. These were just the 2 that we selected.
So were some of them, are they like target areas? I know bus drivers are sort of a pain point.
Yes, we tried to look at, like I said, we looked at each 35 scales individually and the employees on them, and then looked at what the market was, and we looked at scales from other divisions, neighboring divisions, to peg market-wise where we thought we needed to start our scale, and then built it with that linear of we knew we needed to increase the bottom, but we needed to bring the top down.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. McDonald?
So I'll finish up here if you'd like. So our summary for our FY26 request, for those required in Tier 1 expenses, as I stated earlier, is a $3,566,938 increase in our budget over our prior years. And our projected additional state revenue that we expect that was presented last meeting to you, thank you, Dr. Van Huckelen, for doing that for me because I was ill, was $1,960,025. That currently results in a projected expected request from the city at this time of $1,606,913. We are continuing, as presented last month, to monitor our ADM and finalize our figures for ADM use in our budget. We're currently using the governor's budget. The General Assembly did adjourn on Saturday, and they have sent a budget to the governor's desk. We're waiting to see what he plans to do with that, whether he will sign it or not, and then that effect on our budget from that, and whether we'll know anything or not prior to having to pass our budget. We'll continue to monitor that state legislature, and we're also continuing to monitor the federal administration and any changes that we're seeing come from them on a daily basis. Our ADM is currently maintaining. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, this brings us to Mr. Weiss. There he is. Winchester Education Foundation Annual Report.
Good evening, thank you. I think I know how to work this. Appreciate the opportunity to address and update the board this year on activities at the Winchester Education Foundation during the year 2024. Let's go to the next slide. How do I do this? There we go. So as we did discuss last year, we'll continue along the same kind of format and talk a little bit about internal reorganization that we've been doing at the foundation, as long as, of course, financial results, which will be, of course, of interest to you as well. Talk a little bit about our programs, and most importantly, perhaps a look at the future and what our goals are as we move into 2025 and beyond. So as I mentioned last year, we began a period of analysis and reorganization of the WEF. Our initial focus was to update and modernize our bylaws, as well as deal with basic governance issues. And as we moved into 2024, we were able to move forward in that process, and we really began looking at and adopting new policies that were going to be necessary for sustainable financial operation and effective governance. And these included a new investment policy, a gift acceptance policy, and a fiscal management policy. Two of those three have already been adopted by the board, and the fiscal management policy we anticipate will be accepted for approval at the March board meeting. We also are looking to continue to expand our board as we did last year, as we look to become both a more diverse and a more talented board moving into the future, which will have the result of hopefully increasing our capacity, impact, and effectiveness. Moving on to what might be the most important item to you folks seated in this room today, the WEF continues to provide significant financial support to the Winchester Public School System. This chart kind of indicates over the last 5 years we have been collecting pledge payments, as you know. For the Shahada Center project, in 2024, we collected an additional $81,000 in pledge payments. Most importantly, over the life of this 5-year term, we have now sent over $1.6 million to the Winchester Public Schools. As you'll see there is still an additional $125,600,000 of pledge payments, which will be collected in the next 2 years, which will also be forwarded to Winchester Public Schools. We also have been doing some funding on a pass-through nature, which is important to the system. We're not indicating it here because it's not a direct contribution from our coffers, but the WEF continues to be the pass-through vehicle by which somewhere between $135,000 and $250,000 is passed through to Winchester Public Schools for the Claude Moore Scholar Program. That number does vary from year to year depending on the grant request and the participants. But again, we continue to be the major funding nonprofit source for Winchester Public Schools. And if we look specifically at 2024, we had 251 individual donors to the Winchester Education Foundation last year. The total receipt in pledges, grants, and donations was $404,846. And again, as I mentioned earlier, $82,900 was returned directly at that point to Winchester Public Schools. We also last year completed our role as the lead agency for the Handley 100 Committee and the One Handley event. I know many of you participated in some, if not many or all of these events. It was a very time-consuming year and a half. Not only did our board members and myself participate actively on the steering committee, we processed literally hundreds and hundreds of financial transactions for the One Handley Committee as their 501c3, and that also included making sure that every invoice was paid, every reimbursement was made to committee members. Literally, we paid for everything and cut checks for major plaques to wrapping paper for gift bags. So reimbursements were anywhere from $1.43 to, thousands and thousands of dollars. So obviously one of our major missions is to support the education programs of the Winchester Public School System. Scholarships continue to be one of the major areas that we use to fulfill that mission. Last year we provided 6 scholarships to seniors at baccalaureate at John Handley High School. The total dollar of that was $28,500 last year. Additionally, we made 4 grants for Black History Month and Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations. We'll be doing that again Wednesday. I'm sure some of you will be at that assembly. We also continue the Loy Come Back to Teach Award Scholarship Program. These are specifically for John Handley High School graduates who return to teach in the Winchester Public School System. They are a key tool for WPS retention and hiring efforts. Last year, 3 teachers received awards totaling $15,000. We have now, since this program initiated in the 2018-2019 school year, provided over $142,000 in financial grants to Winchester Public School teachers to help them finance either their past, continued, or further professional education. We were able to expand that program last year to also offer scholarships to non-Handley graduates. Because let's face it, while it's wonderful to have Handley graduates come back to teach, that is still only a small pool of the total staff of Winchester Public Schools. Though this is an area that we started last year, we want to continue to expand it. Again, it's a similar program where we were offering scholarship payments to teachers to help them pay for either their past or continuing education. We rolled that out last year. We were able to provide 2 awards totaling $1,500. This year we will be expanding that program. I'll be working with Mr. Joyner so we have one seamless application process moving forward for either type of these awards. But in 2025, we're able to continue to offer these awards. We're increasing it to $3,000. This is a program that we hope to continue to expand moving forward in the years to come. And I should mention that we are able to do this specifically through the support of Navy Federal Credit Union. Lastly, we were very proud this past summer, as I know you were and the entire community was, to see this wonderful Douglas School Museum and Archives open to the community, and the WEF was honored, and I say honored, underlined multiple times, to be able to provide a $5,000 honorarium to Judy Humbert for her lifetime dedication to not only preserving that history, but bringing it alive to students in our community in this wonderful new museum that we have at this facility. So as we move into 2025 and beyond, I like to make sure that we highlight the fact that sometimes it's overlooked, but we are your nonprofit. The Winchester Education Foundation exists solely to support Winchester Public Schools, the administration, the students, and the staff. And we're very excited to continue that process in the year to come. First and foremost, we're going to continue to collect those Shahada Center pledges, because who couldn't use another $125,000? And so we'll be working diligently on that. We've also rolled out a new Partners in Education program. This is a long-term initiative that we have built to design to increase our unrestricted support, which will allow us to increase the funding that we have available for individual WPS projects. This is designed for both individuals and businesses to participate. You can join Mr. Birchenough as a partner in education. We have about 25 members so far. I have left a handy application on the corner of the stage there, and I would invite all of you to participate as we move through the 2025 school year. We also, as I mentioned earlier, look to continue to maintain and expand our scholarship programs, and I think we're going to continue to focus on the teacher area, because retention and recruitment continues to be one of your bigger challenges. We're hoping that this year we will begin support of the English department at John Hanley High School with an annual grant for curriculum enhancement. We've had conversations with Dr. Van Huculum about that, and we hope this is a program that enables the English teachers at Hanley to come together as a group and decide for themselves what might be a good way to add to the curriculum, just a little something that they're not able to do under current circumstances, and we anticipate that that funding should be somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000 to $30,000 a year. Assuming this program works out and is effective, we'd like to see if we cannot continue to expand that program into other departments, but the English department will be the first crack at this, and we anticipate that that will be well received and an effective tool to enhance curriculum. As I mentioned earlier, we're continuing to expand our board because we can never have too much diversity or talent on our board. We are going to continue to expand the community awareness of the WEF brand, and perhaps most importantly to the future, we have begun conversations with the administration and the superintendent to look for new projects that can become initiated over the next year or two as we continue to focus on the needs, wants of Winchester Public Schools, the school board, and the community. So in closing, again, we appreciate the opportunity to serve. I always like to focus and remind people that we are, in fact, your nonprofit. Dialogue, communication will make this a more effective partnership and relationship for both the schools, the students, and the community, and we look forward to continuing to work with the administration, the school board, and the city of Winchester. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Weiss? Dr. Van Huculum has a comment.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Larry and his leadership. Going on maybe 3 years now, or how long?
It'll be 3 years in September.
All right, very good. Well, and I always tell people, these are the little things that make Winchester very unique. You're not going to see that kind of dollar amount coming into many foundations, education foundations. In fact, over time, I think we've outraised Fairfax County at one point. So it's very unique to have such a giving community, and Larry and his leadership has really organized the group, and I really appreciate all the work that you've done. And Larry and I have been in talks recently just about the support for future capital campaigns and things like that. And so just thank you, and tell your board thank you, and we appreciate the support. And it's very unique, and we feel proud and honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, folks, for your time. Good evening.
Thank you so much. All right, moving along, we have one action item to talk about tonight. Dr. Bula is going to talk to us about dual language expansion. Continue to talk to us.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Just bringing up, so there's no changes to the presentation except the very last slide. And welcome any questions that you have. The presentation from our last meeting, this new slide just kind of gives you an outline for next year and then the year after. And so next year would be recommended for Quarles to start in kindergarten for the dual language immersion. And then John Kerr the following year would do kindergarten and first grade simultaneously. So then that way it would be kind of similar to starting off. So I'm thinking about in the next 4 years when those students go to Daniel Morgan Intermediate, it would be a nice transition so we don't have a staggered, those groups would meet all together when they come into 5th grade. So that's kind of that plan in terms of how that goes. So questions, anything else?
I have a comment.
Ms. Burrow?
I just want to say I'm really excited about this, and I think I was looking over this and I was like, this is the same slideshow, and then I got to the end and I was like, I see what happened here. So I appreciate that you added in first grade, right? That's the difference. Yeah, so that's really exciting. Thank you for that.
Is that staffing too? Will they need a kindergarten and first grade teacher at?
Yep. So they would go, there would be 2 teacher positions there.
So Quarles would also get in 27 a first grade teacher.
Yes, yep. Yeah, each year, and that's, so this year at Virginia Avenue being all the way K through 4, no longer, so they can no longer have to add positions or anything, or change positions to dual language, so it's streamlined through. So it's, for these 2 schools, it'll just be changing one classroom to a Spanish immersion classroom. And then once you get up to the 4th grade, then we're set.
Great. Any other comments or questions for Dr. Bula? Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Bainey.
Yeah, just really excited that we can bring this to the entire school division. It's been several years since we started the dual language, and just thinking, Kevin, even of your comments too, like to be bilingual. How cool is that, right? To have that access for all of our students to be truly bilingual. And when we say bilingual, it's not just speaking, it's listening, speaking, reading, and writing. It's formal. So I'm really proud that we'll be able to offer that. And if you close your eyes and think, 13 years from now, we'll have kids walking across that stage that are truly biliterate, right? And a large group of that graduating class will be biliterate, which is great. So.
Yes, very much so. This is an exciting action item. We don't always get to say that. So who would like to attach their name to this motion?
I got it. Oh, go for it.
Okay, Ms. Burrow.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion that we approve the expansion of the dual language immersion program as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Burrow.
Second.
I think we had a second by Ms. Harris. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this brings us to a need for closed session. Mr. Burchinoff.
Pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia, motion that the board convene in closed session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters which specifically include candidates for instructional/licensed positions for the 2025-2026 school year, coaching stipends, substitute teachers and support staff, and resignations, and for the purposes of discussing disciplinary matters of a student.
Okay, motion by Mr. Burchinoff. Second by Ms. Harris. Any discussion? I'm sorry, by Ms. Burrow. I'm sorry about that. By Ms. Burrow. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're in closed session.